Yeah, well, this is what they say. They say it even about Aliyah. It says better to live in Chutz La'aretz and yearn to live in Eretz Yisrael than to live in Eretz Yisrael and yearn to be in Chutz La'aretz. Okay, I'm not sure la halacha that would compute, but same thing with Kollel. Better to be out in the world and yearn to be learning in Kollel than sitting in Kollel and yearning to get out of there to go into the world. So the truth of the matter is this is a very important tashkafa. David HaMelech was a soldier. He was a military commander. He waged wars. That's why he was disqualified from building the Beis HaMikdash, even though he wanted to, because he was a man of war. But he always understood that the greatest thing he could do is to learn Torah, be in the house of Hashem, be connected to the Beis HaMikdash, which really means anywhere you're learning Torah becomes a Beis HaMikdash. This is very important in priorities. We spoke about the idea that it's good to have health and it's good to have some material comfort in life. But all of these, good to have security, but all of these are means to the end. They are not the end. The end is to be able to serve Hashem, and therefore when David HaMelech is waging milchama, his mind and his heart are in the Beis HaMedrash. And that's how we should approach everything. You're working, you're eating, you're sleeping, but everything is done with the kavanah that I want to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's a very beautiful idea that the soldier in battle, if he's a shomer mitzvahs, should be thinking that this is a way, by making Eretz Yisrael safer, by getting rid of the enemies that want to destroy us, this is a way we will be able to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu much more. Let me just tell you a beautiful vort. David HaMelech says, Shifti beveis Hashem kol yemei chayai. I want to dwell in the house of Hashem all my life. Lachsais b'nayam Hashem, to see the pleasantness, the sweetness of Hashem. Ulevaker behechalei, and to visit his sanctuary. So there's a little bit of a stira. He started off saying, I want to dwell in Hashem's house all my life. I want to be a permanent resident. Then he says, I want to visit. You want to be a visitor? Or you want to be a permanent resident? What is it? Tourist or citizen? So the Sifrei Chasidus, they say a beautiful word. And they say, a mashal, and maybe you remember this, a bar mitzvah boy puts on tefillin. Or if you start later, maybe even later you start putting on tefillin. There's so much excitement. A bar mitzvah kid starts thinking about tefillin from the time they're 11 years old, if not earlier. I'm going to be the big boy. I'm going to be with the big boys, etc. And they're waiting and waiting. And the first time they put on tefillin, although probably all the straps are going to collapse, that's been a problem in starting tefillin. But he's so excited. There's so much passion and excitement. Amazing. And then what happens is, months, weeks, months, years, decades, put on tefillin, it's a mitzvah, but you don't have that same geschmack. Meaning, once you become habituated, you don't have the passion. David HaMelech is mispalel. He should be connected to Hashem all the days of his life, but he should have the excitement of a first-time visitor. Shifti beveis Hashem, and there should be levaker behecholai. Eretz Yisrael is that way too. I remember the first time I visited Eretz Yisrael was in 1979. It was a law school graduation present. And, the first time, amazing thing, first time, like every single thing, waiting in line for the buses, amazing, everything was like wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. And then what happens was, you get habituated to everything. Even resentful sometimes, but at least habituated. You don't have that same geschmack. And then you have to realize every moment, Moshe Rabbeinu so much wanted to be here. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't let Moshe Rabbeinu come. And we have the zechus of being in Eretz Yisrael, of being in Yerushalayim, of learning Torah. But it rubs off. I remember a line once I read, there was a religious novel, like a historical novel, about Rachel, Rabbi Akiva's wife. And Rabbi Akiva and his Rebbetzin. It's a historical novel based on Makoris of Chazal. So I still remember, although it's a little anachronistic, that they were the author was trying to show how Rachel was a tzadekes from the time she was a little girl. So Rachel says to her friends, like when she was 10, She says, let's go and watch the Beis HaMikdash today. We can watch the Korban Tamid. and the friend said, they always do the same thing there. Let's go to the mall. Now, I'm not sure if Romans had malls. I don't know. It sounds a little anachronistic to me. But the notion was, let's not bother with the Beis HaMikdash. They do the same thing every day. Let's go. So you can take advantage of the Beis HaMikdash. You can take it for granted. So David HaMelech is saying, I always want to feel like the first-time visitor. I remember the first time I came to a yeshiva, again, in Eretz Yisrael. We used to have Rabbi Rosenbaum, Kalman Rosenbaum, you may know him. He comes to the Beis Medrash Friday night. He's the mashgiach at Rabbi Center's yeshiva. He used to arrange for the students in Hartford, Connecticut, a trip to Ner Yisrael, an annual trip to visit Ner Yisrael. So I remember going in 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade. That created the Chazaka, which I eventually went to Ner Yisrael. And I remember in 6th grade, the first time I heard Yehei Shmei Rabbah in a yeshiva minyan. And it was very, very, very different than Yehei Shmei Rabbah in a Young Israel minyan. Like loud and kavana. And it really kind of shook me up. It like blew my mind a little bit. Now, after so many decades, I don't even particularly notice anymore. You take things for granted. And that's what David HaMelech is mispalel, never to take things for granted. Yeah.
So does that imply that he's saying that that's the ideal? Meaning, because he was doing both, I guess.
Well, first of all, like this, you have to understand, I think you might be substituting something. When a person says, I want to dwell in the house of Hashem all the days of my life, that's lav dafka saying, I want to sit in a Beis Medrash all the days of my life. Rather, what he's saying is, everything that I do, I should be margish, that I'm sitting in the presence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So that can include, business, and that can include, everything. So he's not necessarily saying kolel is the ideal, but he's saying in everything you do, you have to be mekushar to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Mesilas Yesharim, Ramchal, builds a ladder based on the brisa of Rav Pinchas ben Yair, different steps that bring you ultimately to Ruach HaKodesh. That's kind of the ultimate level. So, by the way, the lowest rung on the ladder, the lowest rung, is Zehirus. So what is Zehirus? I keep the whole Torah. The Mesilas Yesharim starts on the level that I keep everything. And then we move up there. Right? So that's why it's very important. Do not assume you can't read about the other levels until you master the lower levels, because if that's going to be the case, you'll never get beyond chapter 1. But rather, concurrently, you can work on multiple levels at the same time. But the highest level, the highest rung, is Kedusha. And what is Kedusha? So he goes through the idea that Kedusha is that even the Gashmias, even the physical, material parts of the tzaddik's life, become like a kodesh kedoshim. They become a sacrifice given to God. And he says that the chenveni, that the storekeeper who sits in his store and does business the whole day, can in theory, maybe it's only theory, can in theory, be as holy and as connected to Hashem as the person who sits and learns the whole day, if he's gone through the spiritual avodah of purifying himself. So in that way, I would say the same thing. When David HaMelech shifted Beis Hashem, he's lav dafka referring to a particular role in life.
Thank you for listening to this Ohr Somayach production. To find out more and to partner in our mission, please visit ohr.edu.